General Hospital spoilers for Wednesday, June 18 reveal that Willow now finds herself standing at the edge of an emotional precipice, forced to confront one of the most pivotal and unnerving decisions of her life. After the humiliating loss in her custody battle for Wiley, the emotional devastation has not only shattered her confidence as a mother, it has fundamentally altered the course of her future. Everything she once believed about love, motherhood, and justice has been ripped apart, leaving only a hollow sense of purpose and a desperate need to reclaim some part of what she lost. And now, as whispers of a potential appeal emerge, a new and wildly unpredictable adjustment is being set into motion, one that could rewrite everything, the possibility of marrying Drew. Not out of love, not out of healing, but as a strategic and legally calculated alliance to strengthen their position in the fight to regain custody of Amelia. This story is no longer just about heartbreak, it's about survival, strategy, and a psychological recalibration that borders on madness. Willow, still reeling from being labeled an unfit mother, sees the appeal process as her last chance to prove herself. But with the court already favoring Michael and Sasha as the stable, two-parent home, she knows that standing alone offers little hope. Enter Drew, a man also wounded, cast out, and grasping for redemption. Their connection, once rooted in betrayal and emotional confusion, is now being reframed as potential salvation. In a twisted turn of narrative logic, marriage becomes less about love and more about leverage. A two-parent household, a united front, a carefully constructed image for the courts. The idea of Willow and Drew marrying to secure Amelia isn't just a shocking twist, it's a sign of how far the show's storytelling has spiraled into uncharted psychological territory. It reflects one of the most chaotic and emotionally charged adjustments General Hospital has ever attempted. It's a decision not of the heart but of desperation, born from systemic failure, personal guilt, and the unbearable thought of losing another child. And in embracing this madness, Willow is no longer acting as the soft-spoken moral compass, she is becoming a strategist. Someone willing to weaponize her trauma and her past with Drew to gain the upper hand. But the ramifications of this move could be catastrophic. Michael will see it as a threat. Sasha will feel cornered. The court may view it as manipulative. And Jason, if he learns of the plan, may intervene in ways that reignite old wounds. Even Willow herself may not survive the psychological toll of binding herself to someone she doesn't truly love, simply to check a box in a legal system that already cast her aside. Yet, this is where the story now lives, in the gray space between sanity and obsession, love and strategy, grief and defiance. In the end, this decision will define the next chapter of Willow's life. It may save her or destroy her. But one thing is certain, the woman who lost Wiley is not the same woman considering this new path. She's changed, hardened, and dangerously willing to play the very game that once broke her. And that shift, this new version of Willow, signals that the story isn't just evolving. It's exploding into something far more unpredictable. Curtis once again rejects Portia. And with that rejection comes the unraveling of a connection that once held the promise of healing and shared purpose. But now, their inability to reconnect or find common ground has become something far more significant than the end of a relationship. It marks a fracture in a potential alliance that was meant to challenge Drew's growing dominance. The future they might have forged together, one rooted in justice, strategy, and a shared mission to expose Drew's manipulation, has now slipped further out of reach. And this failure to unify is revealing one of the most dramatic narrative adjustments General Hospital has introduced in recent weeks, an unsettling shift that is reshaping alliances, deepening emotional isolation, and amplifying the chaos that Drew continues to leave in his wake. Curtis's refusal is not just about emotional distance. It's a deliberate statement. He no longer sees Portia as someone who can stand beside him in this fight. Whether because of past betrayals, divergent visions for justice, or the burden of mistrust that continues to fester between them. His decision to turn away from her once again cements the idea that the war against Drew will not be fought with romantic unity, it will be fought in fragments, with fractured partnerships, lonely resolve, and dangerously isolated choices. What could have been a power duo capable of dismantling Drew's carefully constructed image of redemption has instead become a cautionary tale of what happens when pride, pain, and silence win. This rejection sends a ripple across Port Charles, confirming one of the most jarring adjustments currently taking hold. Curtis is no longer playing the role of reconciler or moral stabilizer. He's becoming a man driven solely by truth, even if it isolates him. And Portia, once his equal in pursuit of justice, now stands alone, cut off emotionally and strategically. Their inability to form a united front against Drew is one of the show's most recent narrative shocks, a moment that redefines how this battle will unfold and confirms that the show is steering deeper into complex, fractured storytelling. Without Curtis and Portia together, the fight against Drew becomes messier, more dangerous, and more uncertain. No longer buffered by a trusted ally, Portia may be forced to pursue riskier moves. And Curtis, distancing himself from emotional entanglement, may walk a darker path, one that doesn't consider the consequences until it's too late. The rejection isn't just personal, it's political, strategic, and narrative. And in its wake, one thing is clear. The story of Portia and Curtis is no longer about love, it's about what's lost when unity dies, and the war against Drew grows more unpredictable than ever. Liz has revealed a secret that has detonated like a time-delayed emotional explosion, one that threatens to unravel years of quiet resilience, buried sorrow, and unresolved love. In the wake of Lucky's quiet departure from Port Charles, a goodbye marked more by absence than closure, Liz found herself alone with a truth she could no longer bury. The truth? She regrets turning down Lucky's proposal. Not just a momentary pang of sadness or wistful nostalgia, but a deep, soul-aching realization that the future she might have had with him has now been lost, perhaps forever. And in finally admitting this secret aloud, Liz hasn't only unburdened herself. She's triggered a chain reaction of grief, regret, and shock that is already reverberating through the very heart of the Spencer legacy. Most profoundly, it has struck Laura, who now must absorb the devastating truth that a love story she had quietly hoped would someday be revived has instead been tragically extinguished by indecision and fear. To understand the gravity of Liz's confession, one must first understand the history. Liz and Lucky weren't just lovers, they were soulmates forged in tragedy, rebuilt through shared trauma, and tested repeatedly by the cruel hands of fate. Their connection was never easy, never perfect, but it was real. It survived drug addiction, betrayal, separations, and the deaths of those around them. Through it all, Laura had always believed, perhaps naively, that there was a future waiting for them beyond the chaos. One where Lucky would come back to Port Charles not just to visit, but to rebuild a life, a family, a home with Liz. And Lucky had believed that too. Which is why his proposal wasn't just a gesture of love, it was a leap of faith. But Liz said no. And now, as she watches the man she once thought she'd spend forever with vanish into the distance, possibly for good, the weight of that no crushes her. In that moment, Liz sees everything clearly. She didn't reject Lucky because she didn't love him, she rejected him because she didn't believe she deserved him. The years of emotional scars, the pain she carried from her own losses, her fear of repeating the past, these were the true forces behind her decision. And now that he's gone, all she can see is what she threw away, not just a man, but a second chance at something whole. Laura, upon hearing Liz's confession, is devastated in a way that's quiet but deeply piercing. She had always carried a mother's hope that someday her son would come home and find peace. That somehow the woman who once pulled Lucky out of the darkest parts of his life would be there again, ready to walk beside him. Liz's rejection has shattered that vision. It's not just heartbreak, it's legacy heartbreak. For Laura, who has already lost so much, her children, her family, pieces of herself, this is yet another cut. The image she had of Lucky returning to Port Charles and building a life rooted in redemption has faded. And while she doesn't blame Liz entirely, she can't help but mourn the path not taken. The confession is not just personal, it is seismic. It marks one of the most emotionally devastating narrative adjustments General Hospital has introduced in years. For so long, the show kept the door to Liz and Lucky's future slightly ajar, enough for fans and characters alike to hold on to a thread of hope. But now, with this confession and Lucky's absence, that door has slammed shut. Liz's words are a tombstone to a love story that never got its ending, a moment too late in a story that was always racing against time. And yet, this revelation isn't simply an end, it's also a beginning of something far more volatile. Liz's regret is now the fire that could reshape her relationship with everyone around her. Her children, especially Cameron and Jake, may begin to ask questions about what might have been. Laura, grieving in silence, might withdraw emotionally from Liz. And others in town, Finn, Jason, even Sam, may see Liz's confession as a sign of instability or unreliability, creating ripple effects in every corner of her life. More importantly, Liz herself may not recover from this admission. For someone who has always shouldered pain with quiet dignity, saying the words aloud means she can no longer pretend they don't hurt. Port Charles has long been a city shaped by second chances. But sometimes those chances come too late. Liz's moment of honesty has proven that not every story can be salvaged, not every heart can be mended in time. Her rejection of Lucky's proposal was more than a personal decision, it was a defining fracture in a narrative thread that many hoped would someday return to center stage. And now, with that thread cut, the emotional consequences are echoing louder than ever. In the aftermath, as Liz walks through the halls of GH or sits alone in her home, the ghost of what could have been lingers in every quiet corner. Lucky is gone. The proposal is no longer on the table. And what remains is a woman forced to live with the truth that love, even when real, can be lost, not by fate, but by fear. Her confession has ignited an emotional storm not just in herself, but in everyone who ever believed in her love story with Lucky. And as the story continues to unfold, one truth is clear, the fallout from this revelation will haunt Port Charles long after the tears have dried. Because some secrets don't just change the present, they redefine the past. Trina and Kai have just received explosive news that threatens to upend everything they thought they understood about the danger circling around Jocelyn. What started as whispers of unease has now escalated into a full-blown crisis, and the information they've uncovered is not only terrifying in scope but deeply personal in impact. Someone is targeting Jocelyn, and not in a vague or distant way. This is direct, deliberate, and intensifying by the hour. For Trina, it's a call to arms. For Kai, it's a reckoning. And for both of them, it marks the beginning of a volatile and unpredictable escalation that pushes them far beyond friendship and into a high-stakes alliance where every decision could mean the difference between safety and catastrophe. The news hit hard. Jocelyn isn't just being followed, she's being watched, studied, perhaps even manipulated. There are files, surveillance clips, and coded communications that suggest someone with real power and real resources has made her their next target. The source of the thread is still unclear, but the intent behind it is undeniable. And when Trina and Kai piece it all together, the picture that forms is not just alarming, it's horrifying. This isn't some petty vendetta or obsessive admirer. This is part of something much bigger. Something deeper, and something far more sinister. Trina, whose loyalty to Jocelyn has never wavered, feels the urgency in her bones. This isn't about emotional support or checking in. This is about action. She realizes that if she doesn't step in, if she doesn't start fighting for her best friend, the consequences could be irreversible. But what surprises everyone, including Trina herself, is just how quickly Kai moves beside her. Until now, Kai has remained mostly in the background, a quiet, analytical presence with sharp instincts and a cool demeanor. But now, faced with real danger, something shifts. He's no longer observing, he's leading. And his intensity is undeniable. Kai's response isn't just protective, it's surgical. He begins cross-referencing names, following digital trails, identifying inconsistencies in communication logs, and uncovering links to deeper networks that even Trina didn't know existed. His background, long kept vague, suddenly feels sharper, more calculated. He knows how to move in the shadows, how to dig beneath layers of deception, and how to strike without hesitation. Trina finds herself not only trusting him, but relying on him in ways that go beyond what she expected. Together, they form a unit, intuitive, strategic, and bold. And their mission is now clear. Protect Jocelyn at all costs and expose whoever is pulling the strings behind this growing threat. This sudden shift into dangerous territory proves one of the most significant narrative adjustments General Hospital has introduced in recent arcs. It's no longer just about romance, grief, or family ties. It's about survival. It's about the consequences of secrets too long buried and enemies too long ignored. And as Trina and Kai begin to trace the danger back to its source, what they discover promises to ignite a firestorm of betrayal, corruption, and long-hidden truths. Because what started with Jocelyn is only the tip of a much darker iceberg. The deeper they dig, the more they realize that the threat to Jocelyn may be connected to the same network that once hovered around Dalton, Vaughn, and even the WSB. There are patterns, symbols, digital signatures that link to past operations thought to be shut down. Kai, whose past may not be as clean as he once suggested, recognizes some of the tactics being used, and that's what terrifies him most. This isn't just a coincidence. This is personal. Someone is using Jocelyn to send a message. Someone is watching the watchers. And if Trina and Kai don't act fast, Jocelyn might not be the only one in danger. The actions they take next won't just define their roles in this escalating drama, they'll define the fate of everyone connected to them. Trina's courage is now fully activated. She's not a bystander. She's a force. And Kai, long underestimated, has become a dangerous asset, one whose growing protectiveness over both Trina and Jocelyn makes him more volatile and more essential than ever before. Together, they are the unlikely pair standing between Port Charles and the unraveling of another deadly secret. This storyline is no longer about friendship or emotional tension, it's about war. Psychological, digital, and possibly even physical. The danger Jocelyn is facing is real, rising, and unresolved. And as Trina and Kai step into the storm, every step they take confirms what the audience already senses: things are going off the rails. The narrative is shifting into chaos. And as these characters evolve into something braver, bolder, and more dangerous than ever, one thing is certain: Port Charles is about to face a reckoning, and Trina and Kai are right at the heart of it. Michael and Sasha finally sit down for the conversation that's been simmering beneath the surface for weeks, a moment of truth wrapped in tension, regret, and rising stakes. What begins as a civil exchange quickly escalates into something raw and emotionally charged as Michael admits, with unflinching clarity, that he wants full custody of Daisy. No more compromises. No more shared responsibility. He's prepared to go to court, to face Sasha as an adversary, and to do whatever it takes to reclaim legal and emotional control of the daughter he fathered during a night that destroyed one relationship and birthed another. And with this confession, Michael not only opens a new chapter in their tangled story, he sets off a chain reaction that proves this custody battle is spiraling far beyond anyone's control. Sasha is stunned. She's tried to be reasonable, generous even, trusting that their co-parenting relationship could survive the tension of their past and the trauma of Willow's collapse. But this is something else entirely. Michael isn't asking, he's planning. And the way he talks, the way his voice hardens when he mentions Daisy's safety and emotional well-being, makes it clear. He no longer sees Sasha as a partner in this. He sees her as an obstacle. A risk. A reminder of everything that went wrong with Willow, and everything that could go wrong again if he doesn't act. What's more alarming is how methodical Michael has become. He's already consulted with legal advisors. He started compiling evidence, nothing scandalous, but just enough to make a case that Sasha, with her history of substance abuse and emotional instability, might not be the best fit for full-time custody. And while he doesn't say it outright, Sasha can feel it. He's ready to play dirty if he has to. This isn't just a concerned father. This is a man trying to reclaim power. To rebuild something in the ashes of Willow's downfall. To seize control of the only thing he feels he still has left. The tension between them is thick with unsaid truths. Sasha accuses Michael of trying to erase her. Just like Willow was erased after her custody defeat. She reminds him that Daisy was conceived in chaos, but born into love, and that she's the one who's been there every moment, nurturing that child when no one else could. But Michael doesn't flinch. In his mind, the world is no longer safe. Not after what happened to Willow. Not with the whispers of instability still surrounding Sasha. He doesn't trust systems anymore. He trusts himself. And in that cold certainty lies the most chilling shift yet. Michael is no longer the moral compass of Port Charles. He's becoming a strategist. A fighter. And possibly, a villain in the making. This conversation marks a dramatic turning point, not just for Michael and Sasha, but for the entire narrative surrounding Daisy. What was once a fragile, temporary alliance between two broken people has now erupted into a looming legal war. And it proves one of the most significant narrative shifts now unfolding in General Hospital. The emotional collapse of trust between characters once bonded by love. The damage done by Willow's breakdown is no longer isolated. It's spreading. Infecting every relationship it touches. And now, Michael, once the center of moral reason, is stepping into a role that feels colder, more calculating, and far more dangerous. Sasha leaves the conversation shaken, not just by what Michael said, but by how easily he said it. How casually he's prepared to take her daughter. How deeply this new version of Michael believes he's right. And for the first time, she realizes that this fight may not end in compromise or forgiveness. It may end in a courtroom. Or worse, in a complete fracture that neither of them can repair. The battle lines are drawn. And as Michael walks away, already planning his next move, it's clear that this isn't about custody anymore. It's about control, redemption, and rewriting the story of a family broken by secrets. And as Sasha braces for what's to come, one truth becomes undeniable. Things are going further than anyone ever imagined, and there may be no turning back.